with for sale on Georgian Bay. I've been in real estate now for 7 years, and I typically handle about 50-ish listings every year. So I'm going to talk about what I do and what I try not to do, and what I'm going to discuss are basically my opinions, taking what I've learned over the 7 years and a lot of the scripts that are out there and just make them my own. So as we go, if you have any questions about anything, please stop me and let me know, because I would like this to be more interactive than just me sitting up here talking. So first thing, I'm going to ask you guys, what do you think is the most important part of a listing presentation? Karen?
Okay, most important, being prepared.
Okay.
Huge, yeah.
I have 0.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess like developing good rapport with whoever it is you're presenting to,
Okay.
and sort of matching their sort of tone or language.
Okay.
Seller's goals.
Okay.
I would have said the same is true connection with the seller.
Okay.
I was gonna say.
All right. You guys?
Okay, hard to go near the end. Complimenting them on their home, making sure that if you're going to give feedback, with a positive and negative,
Okay.
instead of saying, "Oh my gosh, that's a super ugly bathroom," maybe comment on the family room first.
Yeah.
We love that vintage look.
Yes, there you go.
But the buyer's one. So
Yeah. There you go.
And I apologize, I didn't get your name.
Karen.
Karen?
Yes.
Sorry. I think to speak to what Karen had said, one thing I get is what the comps are in the area and what the other places have sold for. So you really want to know what you have all that going in, and if it has sold or if it's on the market, and how it might compare to what you do. So go to Geo to see like how many bedrooms it's supposed to have and bathrooms and stuff like that. So I've been in your home yet, but I can kind of guess what we've got. So yeah, big tool to compare and comps with you.
Okay, good answers. My personal opinion is having somebody to present to is the most important part of your listing presentation. So if you don't have somebody to do your presentation to, there's no point in practicing it, right? I mean, you definitely want to know your presentation, but you need to do the activities to have somebody do presenting to. So if your job as a listing agent is to present a good listing presentation and to be there for your clients, but the most important part, in my opinion, is doing the lead gen activities that are going to get you somebody to do a presentation to. So if you're not outdoor knocking, if you're not making cold calls, if you're not having, 20 to 30, 40 real estate conversations a day, then you're missing out on the opportunity to find somebody to do your presentation to. The pre-listing conversation, in my opinion, is the next biggest step. So connecting with your clients over the phone to really dig into what their wants and needs are and what the requirement is for them is really where you're going to potentially win or lose when you're at the house to do the presentation. When you get a phone call, I mean, the first thing you're not going to do, you're not going to jump out and go meet with them that afternoon, or maybe even not the next morning, because you need time to present or for you to prepare your presentation so that you show up to the best of your ability. What I typically do is, if I have time, like the first question to them is, do you have 5 or 10 minutes to talk to me on the phone about your home, so I can get some more information, so I can bring my best presentation to you, so we know exactly what we're going to be looking at and how I can help you. So if they say, no, I don't have time right now, then you ask them if you can send a pre-listing package to their home, which would include, we have 2 different ones that I use. So one is a little bit more about their home, give me some idea about their rental contracts, their heating costs, some of the upgrades they've done, what they plan on leaving at their house, what they plan on keeping. So this is one that I will send to them if I don't have time to talk to them on the phone about it. If I do have time to speak to them on the phone, this is one that I fill out. And then when I send them a pre-listing package, regardless, I won't include the longer one. I'll just include a short form. Because I already have all the information in front of me. And I'll also send them what we do. So, you don't want to give everything at the beginning, but I think the more information that they have, the more that they can find out about you, your company, what you're going to do for them. They've almost made the decision before you even come. So it makes it a little bit of an easier presentation for you. And if you show up to the home and this has been filled out, you pretty much have that listing already, because they already know, trust what you're presenting. So on the phone, asking the questions about if you don't understand the reason why they're selling before you get to that appointment, you've missed the opportunity to really connect with your clients. So definitely having that rapport with them, being there to be the fiduciary for them, finding problems that they need solved is really what your job is, to dig in. So asking questions about why they're moving, when they're moving. You don't typically want to ask the question about what's the lowest price you're willing to take. I know that's part of a script that we have used, but that's kind of like asking somebody if you're going to kiss on the first date. This is now becoming about you rather than about them. And this is really all about them. So you want to make this as little about you as possible and really make it all about your clients. Ask the question, shut up and listen. That's the most important thing. When you ask a question, that awkward silence, whoever talks first is going to be the one that gives them more information. And you don't want to be the person talking first because you're already there talking. So, Mr. or Mrs. Seller, what's the reason for this move? Stop and wait until they answer you. Get that question, dig a little bit deeper. If they're just saying, oh, well, we want to test the market. A lot of people say that. Most people don't really just want to test the market. So you really want to dig in to what the reason is for selling. Where are they going? What are they going to be doing with that money afterwards? If they're moving to Nova Scotia, right off the bat, you want to offer your assistance in finding a trusted real estate agent so you're bringing value to that appointment before you're even sitting in front of them. Whatever you can do to bring value, again, it's all about that client. So whatever you can do to bring value, if they are thinking about updating another bathroom, you're going to be the person that's going to help set that up, and give them those names even before you show up. You can tell them they have contractors that are available. You don't want to give everything before you have a listing agreement signed, but if you're not willing to give anything, again, it's now all about you and it's not about helping those clients. So they'll really appreciate the fact that you're willing to help them with an agent, with a painter, with a plumber, with an electrician. So you can preset all that before you can get to their home. If you've asked a bunch of questions, don't re-ask those questions when you get to the appointment. Touch base on the fact that, hey, I remember you telling me this, this, and this. But you don't want to re-ask those questions because they don't want to tell you again and again. It's like when you're meeting with a mortgage person and they ask you for the same documents 3 times, you're almost losing confidence in what that person can actually do for you.
I just had a question about like when you're making that initial, cold call or whatever. What's like the first question you ask them before it gets to the listing?
So mine don't usually come from a cold call. So I'll just be honest with you. Like that one there, if it's a cold call, you're basically just calling and saying, it's my name is Eric Beutler from For Sale on Georgian Bay, and I'm just seeing if there's anything I can do to help you in the real estate market. Are you looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate? And if they say no, it's kind of a no. Like, again, I'm not a cold caller, so I'm like the last person you should actually ask that question.
Whatever it is you do, I just wanted to know
Yeah.
what that first conversation is to see if like, okay, they actually are thinking about it.
My business is 98% referral. And that's like my conversion rate on my listing appointments is typically 90 to 95% because it's coming from somebody that knows and likes and trusts me already. But if it's a door knocker, which is what I used to do, again, it was just bringing value. You kind of step back, you knock on the door, they open the door, and you have a big smile on your face, and you say, hey, my name is Eric Beutler from For Sale on Georgian Bay. I'm just seeing if you have any questions about the current real estate market, because there's been so many changes. I just want to update you on what's happening. And if they say no, thank you, or whatever it is, you kind of leave them at that. But if they show some interest, you give them the stuff. Nobody's actually inviting you in for a listing appointment when you're door knocking. When they call you back, they'll say, hey, I got your door knocker. Just wondering if we are maybe considering selling, just wondering if we can set up an appointment. And then that's when this all starts.
Okay.
So you set the appointment for maybe a day and a half out. If they're really anxious and they need to get you in there, yes, you're going to go right away. But you want to have as much information as possible because that's where your value is. Like, you're acting like the professional. You don't want to go there on a whim and be like, oh, I see your house has 2 bedrooms. Oh, look, your bathroom's updated. I didn't realize that. So all these comps that I just brought you are garbage. To your point.
Yeah.
That's why this questionnaire is so important. Is you pretty much have all the information that you need to bring them the absolute best evaluation on their property and get to know what their wants and needs are. So when I do that, like, this list is very important to me because, again, are they outgrowing their home because they have kids that are getting older? They have 2 kids that were sharing 1 room. now we need to touch base on that. Was there a death in the family, relocation for work? Again, any question that you can get answered from them is really important. And that's where you just stop and listen and let them go on and fill out notes. And then you set that appointment. What I typically do is if I've set the appointment 2 days out in advance, I will call them, the next day and say, just want to make sure you received the pre-listing package, because I'll tell them, like, I'm going to have this pre-listing package to your house before 5 o'clock today. So for one, it holds you accountable to what you're going to do. So you've already come through on a promise. And for two, you're going to hand deliver something to them so that they know that you're anxious, that you're really excited about coming to meet them. So you follow up and say, did you receive that pre-listing package? Do you have any questions about the pre-listing package? No questions. Great. That's the end of that conversation. The day of, you just want to confirm the appointment. Hey, John, it's Eric calling from Sale on Georgia Bay. We have an appointment set for today at 3 o'clock for me to come see your home. Does this still work well for you? Yes? Okay, great. I'll see you there. So you've now touched base with them 3 separate times. So you're showing your interest and your level of professionalism with following up with them. The first thing I do when I get to their home, again, introduce myself, shake their hands, look them in the eye, really show that you're interested in meeting who they are. And again, listening to what their names are or anything that they have any questions when you walk in the door. I usually lead them to the dining room table. I ask them if I can put my stuff down, and I invite them to show me their home. Part of the scripts in the past that I was taught was, hey, I'd like to go through your home. And if you don't mind, if you can just stay behind and let me go through your home so I can see it through the eye of the buyer. You're pushing off your client right off the bat, which I don't think that is a good way to build rapport. And when you're going through their homes, you're taking notes anyway. You can see it through the eye of the buyer. So like, I need to see it through the eye of the buyer. Man, you just want them to sit down so you can be by yourself.
Question on that, and just kind of playing both sides of the coin, like that typical walkthrough, because now they're telling you about every little who did what and why this is so good, and they're selling me on their house, and it's like a half-hour walkthrough.
Perfect.
Which is good. We can build rapport and stuff as well. Would you, because half an hour and then we're closer to like it's a sphere, it's a warm market, it's a great closing ratio. You almost know you're gonna get that listing anyway, which makes sense. If it's not so much of that, like it's not necessarily from sphere or referral. Would it make sense to try to curb that a little? Hey, let's just tell me about the best features, or let's focus on the things that you really want buyers to know about, or in the pre-list. I don't know. I mean, I feel like that is just sometimes turns it into an hour and a half, 2 hours. And it's like, I still don't got it.
Right. So is that 2 hours worth $20,000?
If I get it, but if I'm not getting it, that's
Still can't lose something you never had. And I understand your point of view with that. I just find that, and I've tried it both ways. I find that I'm still having that conversation, but now we're doing it at the dining room table where we're like, tell me about your house. Now you're like, oh God, I just walked through your house. I know all this already. So what I use that time for is to build a rapport with these guys. So we're going through, and you know what, if she wants to tell me all about her soaker tub and stuff like that, I'm learning more about them as a buyer as well, which I do plan on working with that buyer. So, you're finding out what's really important. They're telling you about the master bedroom, the beautiful renovation they just did to their bathroom. So now you know what you're going to be focusing on as part of the listing as well, that they want to see as part of their listing. Like they just spent $15,000 on this bathroom. Typically, we don't put bathroom photos in listings. That one might want to go in there. So we're going to talk about that a little bit more as well.
I was just going to hopefully just rewind a little bit more. That 2-day period window, typically I'll get them to agree to meet at their house so we can walk through and everything like that. But in that 2-day window, either she changes her mind or he changes their mind. Is there anything, like typically I'll follow up the day of and just say, just confirming your appointment. She goes, or they'll go, hey, you know what, we've actually reconsidered. We're thinking of maybe pushing this back till fall of this year.
Okay.
You just agree, or you try to push it face to face?
I'll usually push it and just ask them, if there's anything that's really changed, their reason why, ask those questions. And I'll say to them, well, why don't I just come over anyway? You know, if you guys have an hour, we can still meet. At least I can give you an evaluation of what your home is worth today. And then you're educated in the market. Does that not sound great?
This is from Sean Bravache, but the answer to that, the script from him would have been, it's exactly why we need to meet. I didn't say what you just said.
Yeah.
You own the fault, that's exactly why we need to meet. Almost no matter what they say, if they're trying to, that's exactly why we need to meet. And give you a benchmark where you're at today. We'll see what the market's moved since. If there's anything I would suggest to maximize your value for the fall, you have time to work on it based on today's survival, whatever. That's exactly why I need to be.
Usually when somebody tries to change the appointment, it's because they've gotten nervous about something. So again, asking those questions and just bringing in value. Like it's a no obligation appointment. You know, if you're considering the fall, maybe there's some things you want to do exactly to that point. Why don't we just sit down and discuss anyway? Usually 9 times out of 10, people are going to say, okay, yeah, fine, yeah. And then it turns out they want to list right away anyway. They just got a little bit nervous about something. Yeah, so going back to the walkthrough, I like to use that as my rapport builder because when we're sitting down at the table, that's where we're going to talk business and that's where I'm going to close them. And I'm hoping to close them as we're walking through the home as well. So we're talking about things that they want to do, things they don't want to do. Tell me about your home. What's important? You know, oh, there's a baby crib. Oh, I see that you're expecting a child. When your child will be like, you're showing interest in them as well. And that's why we need to make it. Are you looking to make this move in the next 3 months? And they say yes or no, we're going to do this maybe when the baby's 6 months old. So now you have, you know, are my clients a warm lead, a hot lead, or are they a cold lead? Or are we just here to talk and then, you know, give an opinion of value? So we do the walkthrough. Again, you're asking a lot of questions, complimenting them on their home. And again, you don't want to make too many compliments where they then decide that they don't want to leave because their home's that big. So if you do that too much, they're like, oh yes, my house is actually perfect for me. Thank you very much. Out the door you go. You know, so I'm usually digging a little bit more. Like if they have a massive master bedroom, it's like, oh, this is a beautiful master bedroom. It's so big. And a lot of times they say, yeah, it's too big. Like we don't want a home that has a 400 square foot master bedroom. We need a house that has a bigger living room. Some notes, right? Now you're just listening. Okay. So your bathroom, I can see that you have like a stand-up shower and is this something that you would like in your new home? Again, building that rapport, like it's not only about the listing of the home, it's about the next step to their adventure because this is why they're basis. Yeah.
Do you literally walk with a notepad?
Always. Yeah. I always ask them too. Do you mind if I take some notes? And they always say yes. Because anytime that you show interest in their home, like they're happy that you're interested in what you're not just sitting there making it about you and what you can do and how you're going to sell their house for more money and quicker than everybody else, because everybody else says that. A lot of people don't take notes. A lot of people don't do the extensive questions. So that's, you know, we go through the entire home. We go sit down. First thing I do is I open up my listing presentation, which is more or less here to keep me on point with my conversation so I don't go on and ramble about nothing, because sometimes I get excited and I start talking. So I say to them, you know, thank you very much for the tour of your home. Let me just tell you a little bit about myself, about my company, and what we can do to help you. So I usually let people know, you know, I've been in the business for X number of years. I was a licensed machinist before. I was a real estate agent, so I've sat in your position before. I was a buyer and a seller before I was a real estate agent, so I know exactly how you guys feel. So that kind of calms down like the sales pitch. I also quite often tell people that I don't look at myself as a sales representative because now you're not a salesperson and you're not looking to sell somebody. I just let them know a little bit who I am as a human being rather than a real estate agent sitting on the other side. So we go over our company stats. I'll always bring reviews. Actually, in my pre-listing package, I'll send them my reviews. Like you might as well give them this information. So if you have 50 reviews on Google, put them all on a sheet of paper. They'll look through the first 2 or 3 pages and they're sold on who you are. Like all your reviews are good reviews anyway. So I'll start to go through a little bit about our company, what we offer. We talked about the fact that we have a team of 18 people. We're listed on all the real estate boards. Do you think that's important? And they shake their head. And as you're asking the question, you're shaking their head yes. And if they have a question about that, you just let them know that, you know, we're on the Lakelands board, the Barrie board, and the Toronto board. And the reason why we're doing this is because 90% or 70% of our buyers are coming from Toronto. So we want to proactively market this to their agents. Do you think that's a great idea? And I'm shaking my head yes. And they're agreeing. So now you're getting yeses throughout your entire presentation. So by the time you get to the last yes you're looking for, they're getting comfortable with saying yes to you. So as I go through it, blah, 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 you know, talking about first impressions and all the activities that a real estate agent does. And it's a great idea that we have a team, we have a marketing guy on our team. So anything that happens throughout the process can be done quickly. We have agents that love doing open houses. Do you think open houses are worth doing? Yes. And then they say, well, you know, our nosy neighbors. And we talk about the joy of nosy neighbors because they love the neighborhood. They're going to promote your home. So we really like to invite them and make them feel special because they might go tell one of their friends about your house. Do you think that's a great idea? And they're like, yeah, you know, that sounds like a good idea. So again, we're asking those questions. We give them some idea about the number of homes that we've sold. I don't like to talk too much about that because again, then you're making it about you and who you are, and this is really about them. So we're just doing the presentation about what we do in terms of going out and doing like a tell 20, show them our target area. We talk about our paid ads that we do through Facebook. And don't you think it's a great idea that somebody's going to get ads given to them just because they're in the vicinity and we know that they're looking at real estate and they're shaking their head yes. And then we go down to, you know, what they're getting with me as being a listing agent, the fact that I sit on the side of the table most of the time. I do represent buyers, but my strong point is sitting in front of handling listings and negotiating offers on your behalf. And that's where my strong point is because I do negotiate against buyers agents on a regular basis. And don't you like to have somebody in your corner that does this on a regular basis and really is a professional? And you're shaking your head yes. And they're saying yes. So by the time I go through my presentation, and every time I do my presentation, it's different. Like you have to read the room. You know, if Mr. Seller is starting to glaze over, you're skipping over some stuff. Like I'm going through this a little bit quicker. If they're really interested in when you're talking about the stats and the number of views, well, then you talk more about the stats that you're doing. So like you really have to change and be a chameleon and morph to whatever you're sitting in front of. Again, asking the questions about the marketing. And I talk a lot about the marketing because when we get to the commission question, if it comes up, it goes back to the marketing piece. I don't bring up commission in my listing presentation. I skip past that. I just ask them if what I've shown them today makes sense, and if they're happy with what they've seen, do they plan on moving forward and listing their property with me so I can get ready to bring buyers to their home. And if they say, you know, like we're going to have to think about this, usually I'll say, yes, I completely understand. This is a big decision. Anything that I haven't answered that you might have questions about, I would love for you to ask me any questions right now. And if they say, nope, no, we don't, we're not really ready for this right now, I usually say, well, you know, that's okay. I understand this is a big part of a big decision. I typically don't bring listing paperwork to my listings because I want you guys to feel comfortable. And they say, oh, that's great because the last person that was here, I didn't ask about the last person, but they're going to tell me. The last person was here. I almost had to kick them out of my house because they wouldn't leave without me signing that paperwork. That brings value to me again because I know I'm not a pushy person. So I'll say that. Like, I'm not interested in making you make a decision that you're not interested in doing. Again, I was a buyer and a seller first, and I want you to feel 100% comfortable with me, my company, and what we're going to do. Does that make sense? Yes, it does. If they ask about commission, my answer to commission is typically, you know, we talked about the marketing and you agreed how important the marketing part of my company is to you, and having multiple agents available to do open houses. Do you not feel that it brings the value in terms of the standard commission? And typically the answer is yes. You know, 15% of the people out there will always go with the lowest price. 5% of the people will always go with the highest price person because it makes them feel special. And 85% of the people are looking for value. So if you can show them the value in your marketing, your willingness to do open houses, bringing buyers in ahead of time or whatever works for them, doing a tell 20, doing the door knockers, doing all the marketing on Facebook, social media platforms, usually as you're telling them, you're saying, do you not see the value? Can you see the value that we're bringing as our team to your listing? And they usually say yes. And if they say no, then are you willing to negotiate? I mean, I won't lose a listing over commission because again, you can't lose something you never had. If somebody wants to hire me for 4%, then we talked about it. You know, This is now the process with the 4% listing. You know, are you at my price or are you at your price? So after I do this, we go over the comparables. We've talked, sorry.
Sorry, can you explain that? Are you at my price or are you at your?
Well, because so that's where we go through the comparables now. So if they started negotiating commission before we got to the comparables, every seller has a price and every real estate agent has a price. So if you have a price of 700,000, they automatically thought their place was worth 750 or 775. So will I take an overpriced listing at 4% commission? No. If they're willing to work, like, will we go 2 weeks on the market at their price to try the market? Then maybe I'll consider that. But in my opinion, the conversation needs to be around the value, what that's going to do to their listing as well. You know, if you can really get around the overpriced listing conversation, then you don't have to worry about the commission part of it as well. So yeah.
Sorry, you mentioned a couple times tell 20, and I might have missed what you're talking about.
Oh, sorry. I thought that was just a known thing. So when we list a home, we will go to the neighborhood and do a tell 20 or tell 50. Yeah, circle prospecting, and let people know that this is coming up and give them sort of a VIP invite to the open house. Yeah, sorry. We call it a tell 20.
Yeah.
Is that door knocking or is that just nail?
Door knocking is better because then you're showing your face to this neighborhood again. And then when you go back after you've sold it, you then circle prospecting again. So they've seen your face twice, they've talked to you. The number of listings that you can get from that is good. I mean, you do the open houses, you talk to people, and then somebody calls you again from that same neighborhood. Again, that's just part of the touch system, right? You've now touched those clients 3 times in a matter of 2 weeks or whatever the timing is. And every single time it's been a good news reason. Like, we're inviting you to, I'm just letting you know that we've sold this home. Is this something that we'd like to see as well? So we're not asking for their business. We're bringing value to them by showing them our willingness to work. Okay.
What do you tell your new agents? Just like, because you have history in the real estate market, obviously 7 years. So you have a new agent on your team. They're going up to their first, second, third listing appointment. What do you tell them to say if a client asks, like, oh, what's your background in business? Like, how do you get them comfortable with?
Just be honest, because they already know. They know who you are already. Like, when you're showing up to somebody's house for a listing appointment, they've already Googled your name. They can see, you know, part of your history and who you are, and they've probably read your bio already. So there's no point in like making up a song and a dance. You just say, yeah, you know, I've been in the business now for 3 months. Yeah, I grew up loving real estate. I've done this and that and whatever else, but I joined this great team. Or if you're a solo agent, you talk about brokerage. Yeah, talk about the brokerage. Like, you're never new.
Yeah.
You're just new, but nobody needs to know that you're an experience level. That's why you have a listing presentation that kind of keeps you on track. And if you get across that conversation, I mean, I was new once too. Oh, I see you've been in the business for a month. You know, what can you bring to the table? I talked about my team. I talked about my brokerage. That's it. You know, I'm involved in grid training. You know, as a solo agent, I've never been a solo agent, so I'm not too sure what you say, because when I go into a listing presentation, I talk about all the reasons why you don't want to use a solo agent. So I don't have the script for why you don't want.
Opposite.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, you ever felt like being just a number?
Exactly. Yeah. So when we talk about our team, I talk about having an assistant, and it's going to be so focused on you because we have so many people that can facilitate this, your needs. So you don't worry about being new. Like Brian on our team, he's been on a few listing appointments already. He's gotten them, and he's brand new, 20 years old. And he just talks about the value of the team, his connection to the community, and his willingness to work. And people are usually looking for somebody who's going to do something a little bit different, other than put a sign in the ground and host a couple of open houses, right? You show your enthusiasm, and that's the other part of it is, you know, your mindset and enthusiasm around their listing. Now, if somebody has passed away and, you know, Mrs. Seller's selling because her husband died, you don't want to go in there. Like, that's why the pre-listing package is so important. Oh, hey, nice to meet you. How are you today? And it's like, their husband just died. You're not getting that listing. You just really missed that. But yeah, it's being enthusiastic and your willingness to work, I think, is what separates a lot of people from, you know, the general, hey, can I sell your house? Right? Yeah. So I get into the comparables. I usually bring about 5 to 7. And before I've shown up at the home, I've emailed them the day before the comparables that I'm bringing, the full comparables with all the pictures. So I'm not showing up with 70 pages. I'm showing up with like 8 or 9 pages of comparables, thumbnails. My assumption is that they've already gone through what I've emailed them. So they already know what we're talking about. We go through it all. I ask them, how do they feel their home compares to what I've shown them? And hopefully I've done a good job picking those comparables. And they're always going to say, well, my house is this and my house has that, and it's better because of this, this, and this. And this house is for sale for X number of dollars, so I would like to list for that. I usually go into, we show the active listings because that's going to be your competition. These guys have been on the market for 60 days. You don't want to have your house on the market for 60 days, do you? And they're like, no, we sure don't. So then I go to the sales. I say, the sales are what we really base our price on, because this is what shows the willingness of a buyer to pay for your house, because it's a comparable. Do you agree with this? Yes. Is that what you would do as a buyer? You would ask for comparables to see what recent sales are in the neighborhood? Yes. So we're going to go under the assumption that a buyer coming into your home is going to do the same thing, right? Yes. Okay. So based on this, we've laid it all out. What do you think your home is worth? Well, we're really waiting for you to let us know. And going back to the pre-list, I always ask that question as well. Most of the time they say they're not going to tell you because they think that you're just going to base it on what they say.
Right.
So I asked that question. If they say 775 and I was thinking 725, I'll usually make a little bit of a joke like, oh, you might not like what I'm about to say. But given the fact that all the information is in front of us, and I'm sure you've looked at sales in your area as well, my opinion of value is $725,000. And based on the information that I've shown you, what would you not agree? And I'm usually shaking my head yes. And if they say no, then we have to talk about that a little bit more. I usually ask the questions as to why they believe their home has a higher value than the recent comparable sale that is almost the same. And that's pretty much what I do. And again, it changes every time. I try and stick to my process, and sitting in front of you guys, that's a little bit different than sitting in front of a seller. But I really feel having a listing presentation book, it's not really for them. It's more for you to keep on track. Pre-listing package will really set the tone for the listing, so you know what to talk about, where you're going to go with your line of questioning. And the hardest part is always commission and sale price. That's our job, to really try and preset those expectations and talk about that. Usually one of the two parties, if you're sitting with two people, they don't usually agree on the price of their home either. And it's not the husband or the wife every time. It's whoever's a little bit more realistic. And I'll use that wording in my talk as well. Like what's a realistic price that you would list for? Because everything after that should be realistic. They're not just coming up with some fantasy, and you're setting that expectation if you want something realistic presented to you as well. And then we just hammer out the price. And yeah, you take overpriced listings as the market's changing. You can admit that you don't know everything about the market, because you don't know everything about the market. Like during COVID, we didn't know what was going to happen. And a lot of people took listings for a higher price that they recommended coming out of COVID as well. And we didn't know that was going to happen. So letting them know that you are human and mistakes can happen, and that you're not, the best of the best, it shows some humanity as well. And they can appreciate that. Yep.
How long do your listings presentations typically last?
Usually an hour is my normal listing presentation, an hour to an hour and a half. If we end up signing paperwork, then I have already created the listing on DocuSign. I will literally never bring paperwork, because I don't want to teach any client that it's still okay to sign on paper, because then you're doing that all the time. If I'm going to bring that, I'll bring the first 3 pages of the listing agreement. But typically what we'll do is, if we are sitting down to do the paperwork, I will bring it up on my computer. I'll just say, oh, I've got the listing paperwork in my car. Do you mind if I go grab that? And I'll bring my computer in, and they're like, oh, listing paperwork. Make a little joke. Yeah, I'm going to make it easier for you guys. Have you used DocuSign before? They say no. I say, great, I'm going to teach you guys. They say yes, perfect. I'll do the DocuSign right there, send it over to them. So that takes about like 15 minutes longer in my listing presentation. My goal is always around an hour and a half. If it goes longer, it's because you got what he said, that you have somebody who just tells you everything about it. And usually those appointments, you find you get them because you're not rushing them through.
Yeah, again, most of mine is fear and more market referral.
Yeah.
Repeat, so getting.
So yeah, an hour to an hour and a half is a good judge of time. I usually book 2 hours just in case they go. I never want to be rushing out of there. I want to make sure that if they have a million questions, that I have 1,000,005 answers for them so that they feel very educated and comfortable. Again, like the cold call type come list me's, like most of them, I'm like 90% sure. I feel like I'm 90% sure about every listing appointment I go to because I want to be confident in what I'm doing, not cocky. Like you're not, cockiness and confidence sometimes gets portrayed as the same thing, but you're not being an ass in front of those people. You're just leading them and showing them that you are the #1 choice. You want to work with me because you called me for a reason.
Well, that's somewhere I think most of us, if we're not there, would aspire to be. You just said, come list me. But they're calling you
Yeah.
for your opinion or your brain. So if you, it's all about that prospecting, marketing, and Karen, right?
Yeah.
Circuit prospecting around the listing, like doing the actual work consistently, and you'll get more of those. Hey, you sold my neighbor's house. Can you come check out ours? Yes. Right.
Yeah.
That come list me is an easier conversation than call.
Yeah. And I end up in competition a lot. Typically 3 or 4 other companies are in against me, and I know which ones they are. So I will never say anything specifically about that company, but I'll be like, oh, one thing that we really focus on is making your listing famous. We'd like to promote your listing to everybody out there, and we're not going to hold your listing for a period of time to try and double end it. We know who we're talking about. They know who I'm talking about, and they go, haha, yeah, that drives me nuts. Perfect. They're out. I don't even need to talk about that anymore. And again, you're not looking to badmouth anybody, but you kind of just want to touch on what your ethics are as an agent and who you're actually working for. I'm working for you. I'm not working for my company. We want to promote your listing to everybody because really the best buyer is likely coming out of the GTA or Bay Area or Newmarket. They're not probably coming from Midland. So we're not going to hold your listing hostage and try and bring it to our little pool of buyers that we have, or our big pool of buyers. We want to send it. Yeah. We want to send it out to all the buyers that exist. So again, it's the conversation goes in a lot of different ways. Yeah.
Sorry, I was just interested in the pre-listing sort of package and your process behind that. Is that something that you prefer to go through the client with, like just to build rapport, or is it more or less you like to see if they'll fill it out on their own before?
Yeah, I like to see it filled out. I give them this, so then hopefully when I get, or we have a fillable one too, like a PDF, so that they can send it back to me.
Yeah.
Either way, I hope to be able to see this. If I see it on their counter filled out, the information in there is fantastic. I'll take a little bit of time to go through it when I'm with them. But seeing that, you get to relax a little bit. When you have it come back to you before the listing appointment, you then know more about their house. And a lot of this, again, it's the conversation. I'd rather not be sending my bigger listing package. That means that I've had a 1-minute conversation with somebody and I'm going on a blind date. And I don't like blind dates. I want to go in knowing as much about these people as possible so that I can really use my charisma and wow them and not ask them all the questions about their house. I really want to know this ahead of time. Like I know who I'm sitting in front of before I go there.
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, 5 to 10 minutes on the phone. Yes, they have time. If they say no, they don't have time, I usually ask, like, is there a better time for me to call you back? Like, can I call you back tonight at 5:30? Would that work well for you? Yes. Okay, great. So then I'm filling this out ahead of time. The rest of the pre-listing package is more just about us and what we're going to do. So they can do a little bit of research about our company before we sit down so they can feel more comfortable, because they don't know who I am either.
Yeah.
And again, most of the time it's a referral. So they do have an idea of who I am. And if I am going against somebody else, This is just a level of professionalism that I'm hoping somebody else didn't do. So we're giving away some secrets here, but they're not secrets. Everybody talks about this, so.
It's good to know like ahead of time, like that they're not struggling to figure out if some's a rental or something like that during the whole process.
Totally.
And take some days to figure that out and sort of thing. It's like, oh my God.
Gives them more time to realize that it's a rental. I've got a listing closes next week. And I asked them 2 or 3 times. And even during the offers, oh, the software came up as a rental. I asked you, and you said just the hot water tank. And so guess what? It's also a rental. They're just finding out.
Furnace and air
Furnace and
conditioning.
AC.
Just the AC.
So it's just another $15,000.
Thankfully, only about 35. But we don't think we should have to. Like, well, neither will the buyer. So.
Yeah. This is really just getting them into wanting to work with you. That's what a lot of this is about. Conversion rates, do you guys, so I know you're a list, you do quite a few listings. Like in terms of appointments that you go on, do you have a conversion rate that you already know? Do you know your numbers, or how many listings do you typically go on in a year? Well, everybody,
Oh,
anybody.
I have to remember that.
Okay.
It's been a long time.
I've had one listing and I got it, so.
Yay.
So
Yes,
100%.
I can say 100%.
Yeah.
But that'd be it.
I had one kind of, Dylan did it and we got it, so that's good. And today,
100% again.
yeah.
Another one today, so.
Another one late, well, this is really timely because I am having this conversation later this afternoon with somebody. So it's a warm lead somewhat. And they told my son, oh yeah, we don't have a realtor yet. And so he phoned me and said, oh, and my husband played hockey with her husband and our kids played ball together. So it is pretty good. She follows me on Instagram and gives me little hearts.
Perfect.
Yeah.
There you go. So, I mean, that's great because you can touch on some of the past history that you guys have had, and that's a good way to build rapport. So it's not only about business, but the fact that they call that you're set this appointment, she follows and likes you and gives you little hearts. She's already engaged with you. Now all you have to, you don't have to sell yourself. You just have to lead the process, ask the questions so that you're really acting like you're somebody who cares.
Right. So I was talking with my my team lead today, and he was saying, you know, a lot of the same things when I'm on the phone. Just say, you know, why are you selling? When do you want to sell by? Have you done any major improvements to the house? Was it on MLS when you first bought it? So I can go by the what it was at.
I wouldn't ask that question because it shows that you haven't taken the time to do your research.
Well, I
So,
don't know the address yet.
okay, so go into Geo Warehouse and type in her name
Okay.
or find out her address.
Okay.
So you should go into Geo Warehouse, find out exactly what they paid for it, and then you can search it on MLS. You don't want to ask that question because it to me, it shows that you haven't done enough homework.
Yeah.
You want to be able to be like, hey, this is what you paid for your house, and I brought your existing listing. Isn't it crazy how different it is now? You know, if it is, if it's not different, don't say that. But I love the work you've done. Like I looked at the photos and you guys, like, as we're walking through, wow, you've done an amazing job. Like it looks a lot different.
Right. But today I'm just on the call still.
Yep.
So to get information about the house and then, so my question to you is, how do I say, okay, did you want to set up a time for us, for Dylan and I to get together? And I also have to say, you know, the reason why she knows I'm new. She said, congratulations on getting a real estate license. And just say, you know, I joined Dylan's team. We have the same philosophies. We play ball together. First off, we play ball on Sundays together. And I really align with his philosophies of doing the best for his clients. He gives great service. He's really upbeat, positive.
So I wouldn't say too much about that unless the question comes up. When you're asking to set the appointment, you say, is it okay if Dylan and I come over on Friday? And if she says yes, say, okay, is 2 or 5 better for you? And if they say, well, you know what, 5 is a little bit better, you say, okay, is that okay that it's around dinner time? Like you're setting things.
Yeah.
You're not asking for permission. You're asking for when you can actually come and what times work for them.
Yeah.
Like you don't want to say, is it okay? Or do you want to set up an appointment? You say, can we set this appointment for Friday? Or would Thursday be better for you?
Right.
Because you're now already, like, you're leading them to hiring you. If you
Right.
keep asking for permission, like there's a good reason for them to say, a no can come out of that, but if you say, give them a couple more different times, you're going to get a yes. And you're looking for those yeses. Like the no's, we've already had the no's, is now a bad time? No, now's not a bad time. Perfect. Now we got our first no out of the way. Instead of saying it's now a good time and they say yes, you're searching for the yes. Is now a bad time? No, it's not a bad time. Okay, great. Just wanted to follow up with our with the request for me to give you a call. Just wanted to get some information about your home. Can you please tell me, go through the list? And don't worry about the spiel about you being new. She already knows that. You don't have to validate that in any way, unless it comes up. Like, how can I trust you with you being a new agent? Well, that's why Dylan's here with me. You didn't ask if you could bring him. You just brought him. Is it okay if Dylan and I come over at this time?
Right.
Yes. So she already knows he's coming. Don't even give a reason why. Oh, I'm doing this because of this, this, and this. Don't worry about it.
But what about saying I'm on, like, talking about being on Dylan's team?
She probably already knows that, right?
I just addressed like on the phone, like what you were saying about Dylan and all the good things about Dylan. It's like you're doing the sales presentation on the phone, which you want to avoid.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
Dylan is like coach, mentor, team leader, whatever, ton of experience. So I'm bringing kind of a story, really.
Yeah, like when you call, you're going to say, sorry, what's your name?
Stacy?
My name is Stacy. It's Stacy calling from the Dylan Jarvis team. She knows now.
Okay.
That's enough said.
And that credibility goes a long way because Dylan has done a lot of transactions. They did a business a while.
Yeah.
My first listing presentation was with friends at zero credibility, and his sister-in-law worked for Bears team at the time. And I brought Ian with me. And he wanted to help me have a friend, and the sister-in-law was mad because they didn't get their kickback as an admin. But I had Ian's credibility and ability to work and help them paint, whatever. And so it was just lean on, but I just sat there and listened, literally.
Yeah, that's what I'll be doing, but it just feels weird, like she's asked me who my hairdresser is, sat on the bench with her at the ball games. So to say I'm, hi, it's Stacy, I'm with the Dylan Jarvis team, like that would sound wrong. To say, hey, it's Stacy, just wanted you to know I've joined Dylan Jarvis and his team because we align with our ethics.
Yeah, I honestly would leave that out. I mean, when you joined our team and you called people, and I mean, For Sale on Georgian Bay was brand new. Hey, it's Karen from For Sale on Georgian Bay. They're like, who? Like, oh, Keller Williams. Oh,
yeah.
Okay. That's where it ends. Like, I didn't join For Sale on Georgian Bay for any other reason other than the fact that, yeah, it's all those things, but they don't
care.
They don't need to hear it. Not that they don't care. They just, you can talk to them about that in person
Okay.
or after the paperwork's signed.
Okay.
Have a little giddy conversation about it and laugh about it and talk about it. Like, that's not
So the main thing is about them and their house
100% and about how you can help them
and how I can help them.
and what you're going to do to help them.
Okay.
And when you and Dylan show up, it's no big deal. So Dylan does the presentation. You are the person that brought Dylan in, and you're showing that you care so much that you're bringing somebody in who's experienced into their house, and they're going to appreciate that.
Right.
How many agents do you think, when they go to the listing presentation, do that walkthrough and ask questions like the way you do? Because to me, I'm like, I'm a fucking genius. That like makes me excited. That's the thing I would want to do.
So I don't know, because Keller Williams' script was, hey, have a seat and I'll come back. Do you mind me going through your home so I can see your house through the eyes of a buyer? And they go, yes, so like, this is kind of awkward. So I don't know how many people do that. Is that how you do the tour with them?
Honestly, I'm same as you, really. I mean, I have like a listing thing right there. Oh, how old's the furnace? Like, just stuff like that, asking questions.
It's hard because I've only ever worked for Keller Williams, and when you look at what Keller Williams does, it's like laid out on a silver platter for you. When I talk to agents from other companies, and they're single agents especially, they're like, oh, you do that? Well, that's what you do? That's incredible. It's like, how don't you do that? Like,
To me, it's just like when you do that walkthrough, it feels like you create such great conversation. It doesn't all have to be just business. Like,
that's right.
it literally is like you're getting to know this person as a person, and they want to work with you by the end of it because you know,
Like one example was, I went on one a little while ago, and these guys aren't anywhere close to selling. That's fine, no problem, I know this. I saw a baby crib, and she wasn't really showing it. It was one of those like, do you put your foot in your mouth? No, I don't say it. So I saw the crib, and I saw that ahead of time that she looked like she could be pregnant, and I'm not going to be that person. So I see the crib, and I said, "Oh, how many kids do you have?" "Oh, we're expecting our first." "Okay, great. When's the due date?" "Yeah, April 8th. I'm like, "Oh, man, you look great for April 8th." So this is great. So I wrote it down on my notes. I called them. It was going to be like around the beginning of April is what they said. So I called them 2 weeks ago and said, "Hey, how's so-and-so doing? How's the pregnancy coming along? I'm really excited to hear the name of the baby and let me know what you guys are having." And he's like, "Wow, you remembered that? That's incredible." Boom. Who's their listing agent now? And guess what we're sending them as soon as the baby's born? For sale on Georgian Bay, little onesie, some baby stuff. And now they're our client because we actually do care. And that's where that walkthrough wasn't only about business. It was like, oh, there's a crib. Oh, you have 2 beds in 1 room. And there's no other bedroom. You have 2 kids. Like, we got to get these kids out of here. They're getting older, right? Yeah, they're fighting all the time, right? That's what that building the rapport is all about.
I watched a YouTube video on somebody in the States from Keller Williams, and she said, when you go in, if they have a candle on, everyone has a candle on, and say, "Oh, your house smells good."
Yeah, compliment them for sure.
Give them the compliments always in the beginning is what she said, and then maybe near the end touch on 1 or 2 things.
Yeah, like I usually, hardwood floors, if they're beautiful, and if they are like actually really nice hardwood floors, be like, "Oh, those hardwood floors are beautiful." Or you come and take off your jacket and it's nice and open. Say, "Oh, I love how open it is when you walk in your home. This is great." Buyers are going to appreciate, maybe not the buyer part, but like you just give them little compliments throughout. Does anybody record their listing presentations or their buyer presentations? You guys ever thought about that? So if you have, that was a conversion rate conversation. So if you have a low conversion rate and you're finding you're never getting these listings, record yourself. I've recorded a lot of mine. I went through a little bit of a slump. Like this past year wasn't fantastic. It wasn't that I wasn't getting them. I just wasn't feeling as confident as I once was. So I started recording my listing presentations and started listening to podcasts.
video or audio at the presentation or like practicing?
No, I just put it in my phone. So like, yeah, you should always be practicing your listing presentation, once a day is kind of a good idea. I'm bad for that. So just like I'm a bad cold caller, so don't take my advice on that. But I will turn on my phone going into a listing presentation and just stick it in my pocket and record my presentation. So then I'll listen to it. And if I get sick and tired of hearing my voice, I know they were. So it's a good, just to go back. Like, I mean, if I would have recorded today, I would be like, "Oh my God, you should shut up." But no, I'll listen to it and I'll compare it to scripts and other listing presentations. Just people all over podcasts, type in best listing presentation and you will have 15 of them pop up and you can make them your own.
If you had the case of not getting the listing, is there like one main reason you can think of why you didn't, like if it was a mission, or have you found that to be a pattern? I'm wording that well, but.
So it's usually I've lost out to a female. So it's whatever, was I sitting in front of another woman and they didn't like me, or was I sitting in front of a man who didn't like me? Usually when I lose it's to a female. And I'll always call and ask for some feedback. And usually what I get was, "No, your presentation was great. You guys said a lot of the same things. We just feel more comfortable with them."
And do you always call for feedback after?
Always. It's the most uncomfortable conversation, but I love it.
It's like why you didn't get the second date at
Yeah.
yesterday.
Like, what did I do wrong? Like, tell me what I can fix.
Yeah.
Okay.
And usually my calls, so if they don't answer my call, I'll send them a text. And my conversation is usually, "Thank you very much for letting me know that I'm not your choice. However, I would just like to ask you a couple of questions and get some feedback from you for my personal own learning and what I can do better next time." And some people don't answer because they're embarrassed, which is okay. I'm not doing this to poke at them in any way. I'm doing this to genuinely learn what I've done wrong, and that's what I say to them.
Right.
And it honestly is usually because maybe I said something they didn't like, and I'm okay with that. The one thing as a listing agent, you want to have enough appointments that when you lose one, you just cry inside like a winner and you go on to the next one.
A good example, when I did the last class, we were talking about that I lost the listing presentation. I lost the sale. And I asked them why. And they said, oh, commission wise. Then I wrote a whole email saying about commission, blah, 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 blah. And then I got a call a week later and she says, you know, Brennan, we're actually gonna go with you guys instead of others.
Yeah. So the follow-up, you know, it's important that they see again who you are as a professional. We had one of our agents, she went against 4 other agents and the commission thing was important. It was the most important thing to her. And what was most important was that she was saving $4,000 or whatever it was. So I said to our agent, she's like, what do I even say? I say, bring her the value. Ask her what's more important, selling your house for $10,000 less or saving $4,000 on commission. Because we have a good track record with our value, what we bring, and blah, 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 blah. You know, are you not interested in making more money on the sale of your home, or are you just looking to go with the cheapest agent?
Yeah.
And she had already negotiated her commission down a little bit. So maybe it was down to 4.5. She had gone against a 1% listing agent. And she said, I want you to list my place for 1%. She told her the reasons why she wouldn't do this. The lady called her back and said, not only are we going to go with you, we're going to pay you your full commission. So same thing.
Yeah.
You brought value.
I had the same thing. We had them, then they had another person come in for 1%. And I typed an email out, storybook of why our value can be better than the 1%, not trying to bash them.
Yep.
And then she called me a week later and said, you know what? I thought you were saying pretty cool.
And even if you didn't get that person back, the fact that you wrote that email shows something, some level of integrity, and a willingness to do what it takes to show what your value is. They'll remember you because that 1% agent probably isn't going to do a good job. They're probably going to get sick and tired of working with that person who never calls them back, who doesn't have a team of people to help them, who doesn't showcase their property on all the boards or whatever it is. And then they're going to remember that letter and call you back.
Well, I don't know if you can answer this because it's kind of a tough question, but you said you get sick of hearing their voice when you listen to it. What would you say is a good percentage? You should be talking and they should be talking on listening presentation.
They should be talking 3 times as much as you should be talking. Yeah, like you ask a question. So today I talked way too much, but I'm not looking for your business just yet. But when I will, I'll talk less. But yeah, you ask the question and you listen. And you listen and you listen. And if they're not giving you too much, just ask another question that digs a little bit deeper, and listen some more. You will lose more listings from talking too much. You'll lose more buyers from talking too much than you will from not talking enough.
That might be my issue.
Yeah. So honestly, like if it becomes a thing,
Yeah.
just record yourself. You'll learn what you say. You'll learn what you don't say. I mean, I talk a lot. It's ridiculous. How much
You get
I talk
excited.
sometimes. You get excited.
Yeah.
I get excited and I tend to, and I recognize it now.
Yep.
And I slow my sentences down and not so excited.
So like, you should take a melatonin before you go in.
I just taught myself, so that's my big takeaway from today.
One thing I do,
Reiterate that.
I slow myself down. Like I've been sitting here tapping on my knee. So that's kind of like my metronome. So this is the level that I talk at to keep myself on pace. Because if I go too fast and I'm like, and nobody cares to hear that. Unless you're sitting across the room from somebody who's a fast talker, you need to speed up your conversation. So we talked about mirror matching a little bit. You need to match who you are with. But I try and set my pace to a certain pace so that I'm not going blah, 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 blah. And that's something that I started doing about a year ago, was I would get excited and talk fast. And I'm not really a normally fast talker, but I get excited. So I just started pacing myself. And I did that because I listened to myself a couple of times and it wasn't the coolest thing.
Yeah. I can't understand what I said.
Yeah.
The first person that I have worked with is my cousin, who I know really well. And I could tell that Dylan he really likes to talk fast anyways and talk a lot. And I could tell that my cousin was just ready to explode.
Yeah.
So I told, I stayed in talk with him after and I said, just so you know, Dylan, he's already overwhelmed with everything. He's about ready to explode. So yeah, that's just something I was noticing, because when he's not talking at all, my cousin wasn't talking at all, and they're like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're.
You need to be able to read the room. That's the biggest thing with a real estate agent, especially as a listing agent. If your clients are sitting like this and then they're sitting like this, you are toast. If they're sitting like this, you're sitting like this. If they start relaxed, you start relaxed. If they kind of show interest, they want to know what you're talking about. And if they go back like this, shut up and move on. Next page, let's just keep going. Really read their personality. And again, like the books that you can read, the podcast, to be a better people reader, better use of vocabulary. Like I'm not good at that either, so don't take any advice from me on this. I usually make jokes. That's what I'm good at with my clients. Is I usually bring a smile on their face. I'm like, ha ha ha, yeah, I go, let's laugh, and then everybody laughs, and we get.
Mirror matching, right? Like, I remember losing, again, you can't lose it if you didn't get it, but not getting a listing to Terry on Peggy's team. And Terry called to let me know that they decided to go with her. And it was like the client was like blue collar, and I should have just sworn more. I like literally that was it. Like they're like, yeah, we swore more.
Yeah.
It was literally like he was kind of a trucker. You could tell like a couple little things came out, but like just don't swear much. I do way more now because I've been a lot more frustrated in the last 10 years.
Personality though.
Yeah, it's not my
It's a
personality.
hard one because,
But to just pivot to better in the way that they would talk, right? It's almost.
I try and really learn a lot about my clients before I go sit down and meet with them. So I'll definitely look at Facebook, I'll look at Instagram and find out who their friends are, so I can, Midland's a small community. It's not like I'm going to some street I've never been in. And I don't usually work outside my area. So typically it's people that there's a connection somewhere. And that's why I bring up what I used to do as a licensed machinist. So people are a little bit more relaxed. It's not like I haven't been a salesperson, because we're all, used car salesmen in their eyes. I haven't been that person my entire life. So I try and make them feel relaxed about who I'm with. Now, if I'm sitting in front of a doctor or a lawyer, I dress different as well. Who I'm sitting in front of, I'm not going to wear, like this is what I normally wear. I don't ever wear a suit jacket. I absolutely never wear a tie. I typically wear running shoes because I'm more comfortable in them. Yeah, I might dress up a little bit more if I'm sitting in front of somebody else, or if I'm going to be sitting in front of a construction worker that's probably just getting home from work and they're going to be wearing their dirty clothes. I'm going to put on a t-shirt or a golf shirt. I'm not going to necessarily wear this because I don't want to feel like they're being upstaged by me either. And my level of conversation is going to be more like theirs. If they swear, guess what? Eric's swearing too, because I like to swear. So it's an open book now. And I'm not going to potty mouth the whole conversation, but you want to build that rapport.
Yeah, like the mirror matching, I just was at a listing presentation the other day, and it's the most awkward thing ever. We were standing up in their hall. I did. We didn't want to go to the table. He just said, no, we'll stand right here.
So awkward.
It was the most awkward thing ever. And I didn't go through the book or anything like you had, because it was just weird. I just said, like, this is this page, like you can look at it on here. It was just
Did you get the listing?
We don't know yet. They're still deciding. It's not in their time.
He just
frame.
takes out one of the different for each one.
Did they interview other agents, do you think?
Yes.
They did. I wonder if they did that all in the hallway too. I had one too,
Yeah.
same thing. The guy was standing up and the girl was sitting down, and I'm kind of like,
Half up.
like, okay, I'm going to talk to you for a second. I'm going to talk to you for a second. Oh gosh.
It was
You almost want to say, like, are you guys getting divorced? Okay, can you sit beside each other?
They were divorced.
Okay, they were.
That's everything.
Yeah.
I had one, and it was a separation, and she must have been like disabled, like in depressed and just whatever was happening, but they were separating. She did not leave the bed. I walked around with him. I knew him, and this was another one that I was doing with Ian, and so Ian
Stayed
stood
talking.
up and chatted with her, and she showed us like summer photos of the pool and all that stuff. That was a fun one. That was 27.
Yeah.
I forgot when I was at it was the most awkward thing ever because the daughter was there as well. She was in her 40s and she had about 2 beers while we were sitting.
Yeah.
Just one.
One beer.
Crack another. I was like,
One thing that's really important too is give attention to both people equally. Doesn't matter who the decision maker is there at the time. Like when you're working with buyers, you spend a little bit more time with the decision maker, like the wife who's talking about the kitchen and you know every wife wears the pants, by the way. It doesn't matter if the guy is acting like he does. As soon as I leave, it's all about her anyway. But give them both equal attention because I've heard from a number of people like the male agent is talking to the guy because that's old school, that's what he was like, and you spending more time with the female, it's like you've respected me, and that's the way it should be. Like, and that's why when I do my paperwork too, I always put the lady's name first.
I do too.
Always
Yeah.
on every single listing, on every single buyer, it's always the woman's name first. And when I get it when it's not, I'm like, you suck. Why did you put the guy's name first? Like, this is ridiculous. Anyway, always pay enough attention to both parties. And if there's kids there, engage with the kids. I won a listing because I engaged with the 2 daughters. You know, the one daughter was sitting and I was talking to her. Mom's here. I'm talking to her about all of our stuff. And the other daughter was in her room. And I'd be like, hey, what'd you think of that? She's like, sounds good to me, Eric. And then they interviewed 2 other agents and the daughters picked me because I brought them into the equation.
that's her, like, sorry to follow up, but that's a really good example. The one I was at again. Sarah was with me and her daughter likes tigers and this lady loved tigers and had stuffies of tigers.
The 40-year-old. The 40-year-old woman drinking
Yeah.
like tiger.
Yeah, so she gave a tiger to Sarah to bring home to her kid.
Yeah, so
right.
you probably get it right there, right? Pets, dogs, like whatever, if there's a dog scratching at the door, I always say, just let the dog in, it's okay. I'm okay with dogs. And then the dog will run up and sit on my lap for the entire presentation. And again, it's like people love their pets, and if their pets love people, they feel more comfortable. So again, it's all about like just being a normal person and being kind and genuine and showing your level of professionalism.
And to add to that, I always get the pet's name.
Yeah.
So that you refer when you come back, and then on closing, or maybe if you're going anything, bring a cookie or something for the pet. Because then the pet is just, all there, but they're so happy that you recognize their dog, and some people, that's their children, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So 3 C's, like care, show you care, you're there for them.
Yeah.
Confidence and competence, right? You have to show all 3, I think. And you touched on all of it.
So what was that again?
Care, confidence, and competence.
Right.
A couple of there's 2 podcasts that I listen to quite a bit. So sorry, 3. Jeff Glover,
Yeah, he was
fantastic.
He was great.
He's fantastic.
He's a little bit more intense than you, though. You're more like,
He works in New York.
yeah,
You gotta
he's
be
like
more
very
intense.
like salesman.
Yeah, he works in New York, so a little different. And I'm just not a salesperson.
Yeah.
So I'm not as scripted. I know all my scripts, like learn the scripts. We have a great script book. I use those scripts now in my own way. I don't want to be a robot, but I know them for objective handling. It's really good to know them. If you don't want to practice with somebody else, practice with yourself in front of the mirror. It's even more awkward than role playing with somebody else. So do that. Run through it in your head. I mean, before every listing presentation, I get somewhere about 20 minutes early. I pull over down the road where they can't see me, and I just have a little chat with myself, like kind of big myself up. You're going to do a great job. People love you because you're caring, because you're there for all the right reasons. It's not about the money. That's my listing ritual. I do it every time.
What about saying something like, I don't need this listing?
I would never say that. I would never say that. I don't.
To yourself, you would never say that to yourself.
Oh, I need
don't need
every.
this.
I don't say it like that, because then you're like presetting yourself to not get it. The reason why I really would like this listing is because I want to help this family. It's not about me. It's not about the money. When the deals are there and you have that next listing appointment, so you can cry inside like a winner when you don't get it, it doesn't come about you at all. I don't need this listing is not something I would ever say. Yeah, I just, that's to me a negative conversation that I just don't have with myself. I might say I don't need this buyer, because I've already worked with them a little bit and they're a big pain in the butt. But I'm saying I don't need something that I don't even know anything about yet. I wouldn't do that to myself. No.
The other two podcasts, you said Jeff Glover.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah, I got on track. Jeff Glover, Tom Ferry, and I just forget this guy's last name. I listen to these guys all the time.
Is it Ferry?
Yeah. And Aaron Novello. So he was a KW agent for a long time. He's now EXP. So anything from about 2023 on is more about EXP Realty and how magnificent they are. So I don't listen to a lot of that stuff, but I go back to his older stuff, and it's more Keller Williams inspired. He has one, you know, the 101 to the best pre-listing appointment. It's a great one. I probably listen to it once a week for the past 3 or 4 months just to listen to it. Tom Ferry is great as well. Jeff Glover, fantastic. Books to read, mindset books like the 10X rule book, why 10X is easier than 2X. Ninja Selling talks about what's specifically geared towards real estate agents. So that is a fantastic book. Talks about slowing down, talks about shutting up.
Ninja Selling?
Ninja Selling, yeah. When I'm done with my book in 9 days, you can just have mine.
Okay.
So I do this with my team. Like we read a lot of books now because it's something that I should have done years ago. I didn't have glasses and I learned French first, so I didn't really understand the English language. No, I'm kidding, but I just didn't really, I wasn't really good at reading, so I just didn't do it. Now I enjoyed it.
Leaders are leaders.
Yeah, so they say. Never Split the Difference is another good one. It's a negotiation book. Yeah, so that's it. I mean, it's really just about being you, coming from a place of value, being grateful for the opportunity to do what you do, and just let people know that you really are a caring individual, and this isn't only about business, but it is about business, and they need to know that you are confident and competent in doing this. You're not just a friend.
Kind of a off-topic question. Are you into door? Do you know?
I don't door knock anymore.
Yeah.
I should. I don't. I will. I don't. I love it. It was probably one of my favorite things to do. I did door knock last year.
Right.
And I know you should always continue on with your lead gen. I mean, your dad would be very disappointed to know that I don't continue to door knock, but
I don't know if you have like an objective to, if you went up to a door and someone says we're working with agents and they're kind of like stepping away, kind of doors, it's grabbing the door. Is there a,
if they're already working with an agent, I say absolutely nothing else.
not next to have you signed?
I don't even say that.
Okay.
I just say, you know, I've introduced myself. If you ever have any questions, please let me know.
Okay.
And I leave because I am not going to be that person. Midland's too small of a town to be like,
Right.
hey, Eric's trying to poach everybody.
Right.
I don't want that. I'll never do that. Yeah. Even when somebody calls me and they're like, yeah, I've been working with an agent, you know, I don't have anything signed. I ask who their agent is. And I say, that person is a great agent. You know, I'm not going to step on any toes. If you decide to not work with them anymore, let me know. But I'm happy to answer any questions that your agent may have for me. That's it. I stop. Yeah.
Would it make sense to say something like what you said in ad? You know, if you'd like to know how we're different, or would you like to know how we work in comparison? But again, like I'm not here to step on anyone's toes.
Yeah, I haven't thrown that in. For me, I worry about, like reputation to me is a big thing. My family's been in Midland for a very long time. My mom always told me to never ruin our last name. So I'm not into even, like she would literally beat me up if I did. So I don't ever want to be known as that person, as from people or colleagues. I'm cool with not having that business. And if they want to come against it again.
Too. Like it really is. They already have some sort of relationship
Right.
with harder business.
Yeah, I don't want them to go to Kevin Ellis and say, oh, Eric door knocked me today. He was really pushy about me trying to go work with him rather than you. Because then when I call Kevin about his, 90 listings that he gets a year and I want to do deals on them, he's going to remember that, not about all the other good times that we've had together.
Yeah.
So I really try and build good relationships with other agents. You're working with somebody else, I'll go find somebody who's not.
Yeah.
Plain
Because
and simple. There's enough.
I have to run the
Yeah.
It's been great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys ever want to talk more, you can always give me a call. I didn't put my number up here or anything like that, but, I don't know where, I don't even know if I have a business card.
Email from the office, the agent rosters.
Okay. Yeah, so if you ever have any questions that you want to talk one-on-one about, I'm happy to help anytime.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Eric.
Thanks.
Awesome.
Yeah, very, very informative.
Yeah.
Thanks. Sorry if I rambled.
No. Now I know, it's like you're listening presentation.
Yeah.
Definitely.